Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
Tuesday night in T-Town means it's time for Tider Insider TV, presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. That's a lot of T's. How about that? Alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. Now, this past Friday, last Friday, was the first scrimmage of spring football for Alabama, and no media was allowed to be inside the stadium. But Rodney's he's more connected than a CIA agent, man. He's got sources all over the place. So he was able to get a lot of information from the workout, and we're going to break it down for you here on the program because we know you want to know. The scrimmage was, as I said, not open to the media, but we got some video, Rodney, that I really think people will find interesting, and that is of the team walking in. WVUA 23's Mike Royer was on hand, and this gives you an idea, again, to see just how impressive these guys are physically. Every year I say it, Rodney, but as you like to say, on the hoof, It's a good-looking group. But sure so, this is the only video available of the scrimmage was them coming in. Now, this is practice video from yesterday. But let's break this down, Rod. A lot of guys missing because of injuries, and Kool-Aid McKinstry was out with a family matter. But that gave a chance for an opportunity for some young guys to step up, like Caleb Downs, Justice Haynes on offense, Caleb Downs on defense, and others. Just some of the takeaways that you were able to put together talking to some folks that were there.
Well, again, everyone's first question is what? The quarterbacks. The quarterbacks. And again, we've said it for a couple of weeks here. We've said it for several weeks on TiderInsider.com. There's really not anything that's distinguished one over the other right now. Jalen Milroe, the reports we get showed a lot of improvement as a passer. We know about his great athleticism. Ty Simpson has all the tools, made some really great throws. As one observer told me, a couple of draw-dropping throws. Still has a ways to go in terms of consistency. But, Nick Saban, Gary, was extremely happy. I guess I could say extremely, because for Nick Saban it was. The way he perceived the offense performing in the scrimmage was, something that a lot of people talking about. The offensive line performed well. The running backs, several running backs performed well. The wide receivers. So it looks like scrimmage one. I was wrong. Last week I said I thought the defense might be a little ahead of the offense because you have so many new parts. You have new quarterbacks. You have a new offensive coordinator, but it went the other way.
Yeah, as you said, Nick Saban, he's never what you would call giddy, or he never just is just overflowing with praise, but he made it clear that he's very happy with Tommy Rees. The players are responding, and that the offense had a really good day. As you said, we saw the offensive line. You mentioned them. And here's Rees right here, just 30 years old. But listen, regardless of what you do on offense, right? We know this. Whether you're a pass first team or run first team, you want balance. Whether you play no huddle or you huddle it, whatever you do, you got to block up front. Yeah. If you can't block people up front, I don't care what you're trying to run. And this offensive line, we don't know who the five starters are going to be, but we know this. They got a lot of big, young, impressive physical specimens to choose from.
Talking to several sources after the scrimmage, Gary, the feeling was this offensive line really has a chance to become a strength of this team. I think they only have, 12 offensive linemen going through spring practice right now. A lot of young players getting developed, getting reps, whether you're talking about Caden Proctor, Wilkin Formby, Miles McVay, Rock Montgomery, others, Olasa Lennon. A lot of guys getting reps. I think right now when you look at this offensive line, it has a chance. It has the potential to be the best offensive line they've had in a few years, at least since 2020, when that was an all-time offensive line.
Yeah, it was. A lot of receiver prospects too, but I want to talk about the running backs because I don't care who the quarterback is, whether it's Milroe, whether it's Simpson, whether it's both. Whether a true freshman blows everybody away, whether it's Holstein or Lonergan, a running game can help you out. And when you talk about McClellan, you talk about Roydell Williams, you talk about Jamarian Miller, you talk about Haynes, who's already here, and Young, who's coming in. Listen, Alabama's had some of the best running back rooms in the history of college football since Nick Saban's been here. I think this has got a chance to be another one.
It does. Got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
We've seen some of those rooms in the past dwindled by, issues in terms of injuries. So you certainly hope this group stays healthy because you mentioned it, Gary. I mean, we haven't really even talked about Roydell Williams that much since spring started.
He's a veteran now.
And some people thought he was the best looking back, in the scrimmage on Friday. Now, look, all these guys performed really, really well. Justice Haynes,
Miller,
Jamarian Miller, he's a guy to really keep an eye on. Obviously, Jam Miller, as he goes by now. And Jace McClellan. I don't think we've seen the best of Jace McClellan here yet. If he can stay healthy, he's going to have a really good year.
Yeah, and like you said, people at home may be saying, man, how are they going to find playing time? Listen, takes one injury, that can lead to two. You never have enough running backs. All right, as we said, Coach Saban, we're going to hear from him in a minute. Really praise the offense. Defensively, listen, there are holes at every level, starting with the defensive line, the linebacking core, the back end, the secondary. There's opportunities for playing time on this defense.
The good news is they've got a lot of young talent to develop. I think they've got some good guys up front. Justin Aboibe's back, obviously. Jaheim Otis has really been shining. Gary, some young players that I know that were mentioned after the scrimmage. Tim Keenan is a young player, obviously. Monkel Goodwine. These are kind of names that we haven't talked about a lot, but they came up. And again, when you're talking about a rotation of defensive line, you hope to have several. Inside backers, Trez Marshall, the transfer from Georgia, is a guy that keeps coming up, is having a really good scrimmage. Justin Jefferson's a junior college transfer. Jahad Campbell's a guy that came in as a freshman last year, as a 5-star rated player. Sean Murphy, he was another 5-star rated player last year who came in as a freshman. So with Deontay Lawson out, all of these guys and more are getting the opportunities to be developed in the secondary. It's kind of the same way. Some names that I know we'll be looking forward to in the secondary. Terrion Arnold had a really good scrimmage. As you mentioned, Kool-Aid was out. Des Ricks got a little playing time, the true freshman. But Earl Little, I think that's really going to be a name along with Caleb Downs, two young players that are going to really contribute to this, I think, this defense.
And I'm glad you mentioned Trez Marshall, because I've seen a lot of people on your board, and a lot of people said to me, well, we're taking Georgia's leftovers now. He wasn't good enough to play Georgia. Was Jameson Williams good enough to play at Alabama? He didn't play a lot at Ohio State. Listen, he was a highly recruited player out of high school. For whatever reason, it wasn't working for him at Georgia. Doesn't mean he can't play. It doesn't mean he can't help this team.
There's no doubt. I mean, when you look at him, really the issues he had at Georgia were injuries. I think if he had stayed healthy, he would have been a solid, strong contributor at Georgia. And I think, with the depth that they have there, it was kind of an opportunity for him to come here, get a fresh start, stay healthy. I think he's a guy that can make a really, really strong contribution next year. All
right, let's get to coach talk. Following the scrimmage, Alabama head coach Nick Saban met with reporters about how the workout or scrimmage inside Bryant-Denny Stadium presents a different challenge and opportunity for the players, and he wants it to be that way. He doesn't want the coaches out there in their ear every few minutes. He wants to clear the field and let the players make decisions, get the calls in for themselves, much like it'll be, when they get into a game.
Competing in the scrimmage is an opportunity for guys to say, hey, I can be accountable to do my job. I know what I'm supposed to do when I'm supposed to slant and get a gap. I know what I'm supposed to do when it's a certain protection as an offensive lineman or a running back. But I got to figure it out. I got to understand the concepts and be able to go execute it, recognize what's happening, have the right eye control, and have the discipline to execute it on a consistent basis.
I love that, Rodney. I think that's why he's maybe the best to ever do it. In practice, man, they're working with those guys. He said, we're working with every player, getting them ready. But when you get in a scrimmage situation, you got to turn them loose a little bit. You got to let them go. If they make mistakes, they got to clean it up after the scrimmage. But you want them to read, react, and play the game, much like you would if you were out there against another team.
Yeah, and that's how they develop confidence. Again, they're going to make mistakes, but as you said, Gary, you take that, you learn from it, you develop. They've got another big scrimmage coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, we mentioned Tommy Rees and how the players responded to him. What are you hearing on Kevin Steele on the other side of the ball?
No, look, I think Kevin Steele's a veteran coach, obviously. I think he's a great hire. I think he's bringing the intensity that we used to kind of see in that Alabama defense, Gary. I'm really high on Kevin Steele as a hire because I think his familiarity with Nick Saban, what Nick Saban likes to do, how they like to do things, and the expectations that they have on the players in terms of, responsibility, accountability, knowing what to do. I think all of those things, Kevin Steele is in line exactly with what Nick Saban likes to do.
If I ask you, and I'm about to, the most promising part of what you were able to take away from that first scrimmage, the most promising aspect for Alabama football, what is it?
Well, I would say this. A lot of people talked about the offense. To hear that the offense was that cohesive with all the new parts that they have, I think that's something that's very promising for the future. And again, the young players on defense, I have little doubt that Kevin Steele and that coaching staff will get those guys because of the talent level they had. Now, don't forget, a lot of guys out, as you mentioned, but I think the defense will come around.
All right, that's our scrimmage recap. Still to come on TITV, another Alabama men's basketball player declares for the NBA draft. And Nate Oats loses his third full-time assistant coach to a head coaching opportunity. Yeah, Antoine Petway is moving on as well, but you know what? He earned it like all these assistant coaches did. It's a good thing when you get head jobs. We'll have more on TITV on that. And we'll be getting your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the phone number is 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or you can email us at the address on your screen, TITV@WVUA23.com. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the award-winning Tider Insider TV. We'll return right after this. Well, Nate Oats is reportedly set to hire Nicholls State head coach Austin Claunch as an Alabama assistant. Claunch has been the head coach at Nicholls since 2018. He won 2 regular season titles and was named the Southland Conference Coach of the Year in 2021. He's 33 years old. And he's already got 5 years as a head coach. I tell you what, you're losing good assistant coaches. What do? You have to replace them with good assistant coaches. I think this Austin Claunch hire is a home run for Nate Oats. A lot of people want to be involved with what's going on here at Alabama. When you leave a head coaching job to come back as an assistant, even though it is at Alabama, that's still for a lot of people, they wouldn't do that. So it shows you how excited he is about this opportunity.
I think he's got a lot of strong credentials.
He does.
I mean, he's such a young coach.
He really does. And they're going to need some help with all the coaches leaving. Welcome back to TITV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. With Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Nate Oats isn't done hiring. He's going to have to replace all 3 of his full-time assistant coaches. That's 1. Going to have to get 2 more because last Friday, Antoine Petway, man, I said this on the sports. I hate to see Pet leave. I love the guy. He is Alabama basketball, but he earned this opportunity at Kennesaw State, man, which is a good program. Made the NCAA tournament this past year. Pet played at Alabama, then came back to beginning with Mark Gottfried, coached under Gottfried, Anthony Grant, Avery Johnson, and Nate Oats, all of them, and was a terrific player as a former walk-on, led Alabama to the Elite 8 in 2004. And Rod, great opportunity for him. Milton Overton, people may recognize the name, former associate AD at Alabama, is the athletics director at Kennesaw State, so there was the connection. But when you lose a guy like Antoine Petway, though, who is an Alabama kid, well, an Alabama, but came in as an Alabama kid, recruits this area, recruits the state, has so many ties with high school coaches. You're happy for him, but it's a loss for Alabama basketball.
It is because the familiarity that people have with him and that he has with others and high school coaches and all of that. And I think too, Gary, even in this, the transfer portal and the relationships that he's built with recruits, but also other potential players that could have joined the program. I think it already has had a little bit of an impact. Now, he'll go on to do a great job at Kennesaw State, no question about that. Gary, you get to a point as an assistant coach, if you want to develop that career as a head coach, you've got to move on.
Got to go at some point. Like I said, this is a good job, and it's a place where you can win. Claunch, we mentioned, is coming in. That leaves 2 spots open, though. We mentioned Antoine Petway being a former Alabama player, having coached for so long. Do you think Coach Oats ought to look in that direction, maybe to see who's out there in the coaching field that has a tie to the state, whether it's at Alabama or maybe to high school coaches, something like that?
There's been some talk that maybe Roy Rogers has interviewed.
Former NBA player and assistant.
And spoken with Nate Oats about the job. Now, again, I don't know what level of interest either side necessarily has, but, there's certainly fits that criteria.
Yeah, I'd love to see Roy Rogers come back, and was a great player, longtime NBA player and assistant coach. All right, let's move on. This past weekend, junior guard Mark Sears declared for the NBA draft, announcing his decision on social media Saturday. Now, he did maintain his eligibility, so he could come back. He started all 37 games for Alabama, averaged 12 points, 2.5 assists, and 3.5 rebounds. He is the 5th Alabama player to declare, joining, of course, Javon Quinterly and Charles Bediako as 2 guys that might, with Sears, come back. We're pretty confident Brandon Miller and Nolan Clowney are gone for sure. But what do you think of this decision by Sears? I guess it doesn't hurt to see where you stand, does it, Rod?
Yeah, no, I don't. Gary, I think I really expect Sears to be back. I think Bediako, Quinterly, certainly strong possibilities as well. So, really right now, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they fill the, 2 or 3 spots that they're going to have.
Yeah, it's, listen, a great season. But when you have a great season, it means you have great players. And when you have great players, they leave. That's just the way it is now in college basketball everywhere. You'd rather be good and then have to worry about replacing those guys than be bad and trying to find guys to make you get better. All right, let's move on to the women's side. Alabama's Brittany Davis was selected by the Las Vegas Aces in the WNBA draft last night. And, boy, she was a great player at Alabama. And what a franchise to go to. The Las Vegas Aces are one of the best in the WNBA. She scored a career high 33 points twice during the season. She tied Alabama's NCAA tournament scoring record set by Yolanda Watkins in 1995. She finished ranked nationally in 11 categories. She was Alabama's best player, and she'll move on to the WNBA. Congratulations to Brittany Davis. Well, still to come on TITV, Montana Fouts breaks a record with her 3 consecutive Pitcher of the Week honors nationally. Boy, she's one of the all-time greats. Find out more when we come back. And coming up next, we'll be getting your phone calls, your emails, and your tweets. The phone number, again, go ahead and give us a ring, 205-348-9882. If you prefer, you can email us at WVOA23, TITV at WVOA23.com. Let's hear from you, Tider Insider Nation. We'll be back after this. Montana Fouts, enjoy number 14. She's one of the greatest of all time in the circle for softball. She is the SEC Pitcher of the Week for the second straight week, third time this season. And she's also the Wilson NFCA D1 National Pitcher of the Week for the second consecutive week and the third time this season. That's amazing stuff. She threw another no-hitter against South Carolina, the 4th of her career in a 4-0 victory. In 2 starts against USC, she pitched 16 innings of softball, 9-inning extra inning game in 7 innings, allowed just 1 unearned run, and struck out 25. Wow. Problem for Alabama is they can't pitch her every game, but she is incredible. Alabama's on the road tonight at Sanford, and they have a 3-game SEC series at Mississippi State beginning Friday, a series they need to go over there and sweep against the Bulldogs, who have been struggling. Welcome back into TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris, and of course you know who you are, and we know who Sammy is in Walker County, and he's going to lead us off tonight on the phone lines. Hey, good evening, Sammy.
Thanks, Gary, Rodney. Glad to talk to y'all guys.
Yes, sir.
My question tonight is basketball related, Gary and Rodney. John Petty was, had the great size, and I thought it'd be great at the next level, NBA. What do you think? The question is, Gary, why do you think is it consistency? Why has he never got a real good shot at that?
Right. Well, he's making a living playing basketball. Let's say that right off the bat. He's with the New Orleans Pelicans. Developmental squad, the Birmingham Squadron. So he's playing professional basketball. He's been up with the Pelicans a time or two. Listen, he's about 6'5". He's one of those tweeners, kind of a wing player. I'm not giving up on him getting another crack at the NBA, but as long as you're in an organization, you got a shot. It's hard. Sammy, there's a lot of really great basketball players that don't play in the NBA. I mean, that is the creme de la creme, but, he is in the Pelicans organization, so maybe eventually he'll get called up and make it and stay up there.
I was just thinking about that game he had against LSU a couple of years ago.
Couldn't miss. They couldn't miss. They went down to Baton Rouge. I think they hit 25 3-pointers. Rodney, it was
amazing.
I mean, that game, I think we were sitting out having dinner that night after TITV, and then we looked up. It was like 24-2. I said, this one's over. All right, let's stay on the phone lines and get to our pal BT, Bill Taylor, right here in Tuscaloosa. Hey, Bill.
Hi, Gary. How are you? You and Rodney, how are y'all doing?
We're doing well.
I want to ask a question, Gary and Rodney. What I want to ask is about who will replace the assistant coaches. The coaches are leaving.
Yeah, we just talked a lot about that, BT. They're, Coach Kalach is coming in from Nicholls State, reportedly to be one assistant. Rodney mentioned Roy Rogers, former Alabama NBA player, maybe is in the mix. Listen, Nate Oats is not, he's got staffers still that can help him. They're obviously recruiting and so forth, but you want to make sure you make the right hires so you're not out in a race trying to see how fast you can get guys in here.
Yeah, and I know that they've talked to a couple of other guys. I know there's a coach that's been with the Pelicans, the NBA team. I think he's certainly been contacted, but also some other college coaches, Gary. And again, I think it's just a process that has to play out.
All right, thank you, Bill. More phone calls, emails coming up. There's the phone number, 205-348-9882. I'm told phone lines are open, which is rare. So give us a ring. We'll be right back with more TITV on WVOA 23. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to TITV. It's time for our email question of the day, and our email question of the day, as always, is brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. KDM Service Corporation, when it comes to heating and air conditioning, they're going to serve your family like it is their family. Let's get to the email question. Does Coach Bo need to make a regional to keep his job? That's from Mitch down in Prattville. I don't know, to answer your question. Mitch. I really don't. I know this. Alabama's off to a 4-8 start in the SEC. They've gone 1-2 in 4 SEC series. You do the math. You continue to do that, you're going to be 10-20, and you're not going to go to a regional. So they need to start winning some series. And, Rodney, there's no better time to start than this weekend with Auburn coming in here to Sewell Thomas Stadium. The place will be electric. The Joe will be jumping. And Auburn is a pretty good club, but they're certainly not one of the upper echelon teams in the SEC. So you're trying to win your first series. You're trying to build goodwill with your fan base. No better way than to take the series against the in-state rival Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you have to let the season play out. I mean, how does it finish? We don't know. Again, so I think in terms of the future of the program, it starts right now. We have to allow it to unfold the rest of the season and see what Greg Byrne decides.
Yeah, disappointing weekend this past weekend at home against the Mississippi State team that came in 1-8 in the league, and Mississippi State was able to win that series over Alabama 2-1. All right, we're going to take our final break here on TITV. It's a beautiful night. I mean, Chamber of Commerce weather. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. We'll be back after this. Another birthday milestone for our main man, Eddie Conyers, on Sunday, April 9th. He was 95. A longtime practice official, started out at Alabama under Coach Bryant. He's gone through Ray Perkins, Bill Curry, Gene Stallings, Mike DeBose, Dennis Franchione, a spring with Mike Price, Mike Shula, and now Coach Saban. He is a legend. He and his wife Peggy have been married for 74 years, like he told me on the phone yesterday. A lot of people don't live to be 74. What a great guy. Man, we love Eddie Conyers. Great storyteller, too. One of the best. All right, that is going to do it for this edition of TITV presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. A reminder, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30. Or you can find it anytime at WVUA23.com. We're going to leave you some video now with Alabama's win over Auburn in tennis. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching TITV. Have a great night.